All right, so I started recording. So what I kind of want to talk about is what I get asked the most is usually what do I eat for my pre-workout? What do I have for my post-workout? And I want to go back to the slides that I shared. So we're going to try to share my screen. I believe it's like this. Always getting fussy. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
perfect. Sorry, he's starting to get a little fussy. Okay, okay. All right, so this is always the question I get asked is what should I have for my pre-workout? I shared this with you guys in the email at the beginning of this month. There's a little coaching cheat sheets. Okay, now I'm just gonna kind of go over it in person, if you will. So always prioritize protein. So one and two is always tied, I guess, if you will. If I had to pick which one I would focus more on, it'd probably be my carbohydrates. And the reason why I'd probably focus more on my carbohydrates is because that's what's going to give us the energy to actually perform the workout. So I could be dead tired, but I swear if I have like a banana or I have like some type of orange juice or something that's going to give me some quick carbohydrates, it's like within the next 15 minutes I'll feel a lot better than I did before I had that stuff. So I have to focus more on my carbohydrates. But obviously, protein is important. So why is that important? Because it helps with our muscle recovery. It helps produce what's called amino acids. So amino acids are basically the building blocks to a house. So this I'm in my house right now. This the protein's the big molecule. The protein's the house, but the amino acids would be the little bricks that make up the house. If that makes sense. So that's why I always want to prioritize protein with everything. Who's trying to join? I just let someone in. So protein's a good focus, especially if you work out super early in the morning, because you haven't ate for the past 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. So it's good to focus on that as well. But again, I'd focus more on carbohydrates. So for my early morning people, I don't have this on a cheat sheet, which I want to do. But my clients who come in and train with me at like 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and they don't have time to eat, I tell them either three things. Either you're going to focus on just having coffee, because that's going to kind of give you your energy to boost yourself up, right? About 15 minutes to 20 minutes before, because it takes about 45 minutes for the caffeine to actually kick in, depending on how sensitive you are to it. Okay, so have coffee, hydration, so just drink water with some sea salt. I'm not a big fan in just having plain water. I always like to add some type of salt to it, specifically Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt because they have electrolytes in them. So it's going to help to boost up your hydration opposed to just having regular old bottled water or tap water or whatever the case may be. Okay, so add some salt into it. And then if you can, obviously have a snack, so some protein. So one of my go-tos is always like a yogurt or a protein drink with some type of fruit. Banana's my go-to choice because I'm telling you, when I eat, even if it's just half a banana, I feel so much better before than I do if I don't have it. So just something quick, something like that. Or at the bare minimum, have some type of carbohydrate drink with you. So like I said, I tend to do orange juice. So what I would do is I'll drink like I'll pour let's say like 12 ounces, 16 ounces, and I'll have like 4 ounces before I go into my workout. I have four during my workout, and I'll probably have four or the rest of it when I'm about to finish my workout because that's going to help to keep me going. It's going to help to drive my workout, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
If you have any questions, I'm going too fast. Please don't feel shy to interrupt me. Okay, I
So
just want to
how
make sure that this makes sense.
how early are you eating this pre-workout snack?
So it depends. If you have time, at least 45 minutes to 90 minutes is the best ratio because it gives your body time to digest it. What I like to do also is, so for instance, one of my favorite go-tos for pre-workout is a protein drink that has at least 30 grams of protein in it and some nuts. So I usually do almonds or I do pistachios raw. And then like I told you, I always go with the banana. Banana is my go-to, but I don't eat my banana until I'm about, I don't know, about 15 minutes before I'm about to actually go work out because, like I said, I want that quick boost. The protein, the fat it's going to take a while to digest. So I want that whole hour or so. But the banana, if you guys go right now and you guys take some jelly or you take some white bread and you put it in your mouth, your body's going to digest it without you even chewing it, because we have enzymes in our mouth that digest carbohydrates really fast, because carbohydrates is our main source of energy. So if you want a quick boost in energy, you go carbohydrates. Okay, so in our mouth we have, like I said, little proteins that will digest carbohydrates right away. So people who are diabetic, that's why they need like the quick, just put like a lollipop in their mouth and they're gonna digest
Sure.
it really fast, right?
Oh, right.
So, like I said, that's what I tend to do. That's my strategy. So I go my proteins and fats about an hour before because they take longer to digest. But then I have my carbohydrates about 15, maybe 20 minutes before I'm about to actually work out. Any other questions with that? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it makes sense. But is there a way that I could get a list of what one, two, and three are? Because I'm not familiar at all.
Yeah, so I sent you guys a whole sheet of like, hold on, right here. Go back to your email, and I got right here my personal top five. So I got my banana. So this is my carbohydrate. I got the juice. I got the sourdough. I got cereal or oats,
Okay.
and I got Rice Krispie bars, preferably homemade, but Rice Krispies. Okay, because those are basically just all carbohydrates. So if you guys go back to your email, I sent this in the beginning of the month. That's that, and then protein. I think is right here. So same thing. I got my top protein choices right here. I got a protein shake. I got eggs. I got chicken. I got tuna, and I got steak. And the reasons why I would choose these over other options. So I actually have these ranked. So I would choose a protein shake number one. I would choose eggs or egg whites number two. I would choose chicken number three. Like I said, go back into your guys' email and find that. And if you can't find it, I will send it back to you guys. But there's your list right there, Rose.
Okay.
So I'm actually got something for you. Um, Depending on if we're going to continue to keep training to actually make your nutrition a lot simpler. I've been working on it, and the new system that got created, I think is going to be really, really easy. It's going to help you to have autonomy so you can still make your own choices. You're still going to be able to enjoy life, but now we're basically just portioning it out. Like, how are we going to do this so that way it helps you to meet your what's called macros, your proteins, fats, and carbs, but also still get your vitamins and minerals, which are just as important. So we could
Okay.
talk more about that, Rose.
Yeah, and I do got those emails. I got them all saved, so I just had to go back because yeah, sometimes I don't know when I'm grabbing something what I should be grabbing.
Yeah, perfect. Um, Fats. So on our going back to our pre-workout, so fats are cool because, like I said, fats are actually what provide the most energy. So 1 gram of fat is 9 calories versus 1 gram of carbohydrates, 4 calories. So fats double the carbohydrates, but like I said, they're slower to digest. So like someone who wants to go for like a long race, so like Esmeralda or Jeanette or Lisa, people who are within our team that go do these runs, they kind of want to have a combination of both carbohydrates and fats, right? Because they want the quick energy to kind of get them motivated, but they also want the fats to sustain them while they're doing it, right? So fats are important too, which is why I said going back to my personal, I do the protein shake. So we're focusing on number one. Okay, I told you guys carbohydrates I do about 15, 20 minutes before my workout, which is my banana usually. And then my fats are my almonds. Okay, almonds or nuts, pistachios, something like that. Okay, something that's quick. I don't have to really worry about where am I going to get it from. I have them in my cabinet, right? I just measure it out and
Hmm.
I bag it up. Were you going to say something, Kim?
How much, like a banana is, a nice serving size? How much protein are we talking, or how much of the fats are we talking?
It's all going to depend. There's not a specific ratio that I can recommend because I don't know, I guess, your mechanics, if you will. So I don't know like what's your personal range
Okay,
for your calories, but it's all gonna
sure.
depend. The best thing to do is just play with it. To be honest with you, so like I said, we'll get to the menu.
Hmm.
So the menu part right here. Again, this should all be in your emails as well.
Right. Yeah.
So this at least every time you eat something, try to get at least 30 grams of protein every time. And the reason why I like going with that is because there's a certain what's called threshold of the amino acids. We need a specific amount of amino acids to be able to really kickstart our body into creating the protein that we need. Does that make sense? Did I lose anybody?
No, it makes sense. So every time, so even if you have a snack, it should be 30 grams of protein?
So, I mean, give or take. Obviously, you're
Okay.
not going to be perfect, but I'm saying like that's the main thing. Like if you're going to have a meal, then you're going to try to get at least 30 grams. But if your snack is going to be your meal, so like you're
Right.
not really much of a meal person, you're more of a snacker, then yes, you
Hmm.
want to try to get 30 grams.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Um, and then going to like again back to our menu, our fruits and vegetables. So every meal or snack should have at least one fruit or vegetable or both to it. Again, people focus a lot on the macronutrients, which are the big nutrients, your proteins, your fats, your carbs, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But we don't talk enough about the micronutrients, which is your vitamins, your minerals, stuff like that, because we need our vitamins and minerals to break down the big nutrients. If we don't have the vitamins and minerals, which we get from fruits and vegetables or nuts and seeds, it's like you're just going to be slow digesting. And we want to get this through as fast as we can. So my only exception is post-workout. So let's go to the post-workout really quick. So post-workout, we're still focusing on the same thing. However, the fats are going to be a little bit different. So we still want to focus on our protein. Okay, protein's still going to be number one. So going back to your question, Kim, say you have in your pre-workout, say you actually eat a whole meal because you
Okay.
come into the later team session. So say like because you're
Hmm.
tracking, like you had 40 grams of protein in your pre-workout meal about an hour to hour and a half before you came to work out. All right, great. That's 40 grams of protein. So that means when you have your post-workout, you don't need to have as much
Okay.
protein because you got a bunch of it before, but you still want to have some of it. So maybe you don't go with 30 grams. Maybe this time for your post-workout, you go 15 grams.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So if you're going to have a lot before your workout, then you
Hmm.
don't really need a lot after your workout.
Okay.
But if you're going to go with that balance, so 30 before, 30 after, I think that's the sweet spot to me personally. Okay, but still for our post workout, so let's compare. So post workout is still the same. We're still going for protein. Post workout, we're still going for protein. Okay, for the post workout though, the reason why we want protein is because we want to help build up what we're breaking down. So your muscles don't get bigger in the gym. Your muscles get bigger and stronger from what you do outside of the gym, specifically what you do after your workout. So we want to replenish what we're breaking down. If I wanted to build this house, and if I just continue to keep knocking it down with the bulldozer, which is my workout, but I don't take the time to build it back up, it's like I'm just going through a vicious cycle. Okay, and that's what people do when they work out. Is they come to the gym, they tear their muscles down, but they don't take time to focus on building them back up. Okay, so we want to focus on both. So protein, carbohydrates is different now, so we're not looking for just energy in our carbohydrates. Carbohydrates actually help to take the amino acids that we're going to get from our protein and drive them into our blood faster, into our muscle cells faster. Okay, so that's why it's important to compare or pair them both, protein and carbohydrates, in our post workout specifically. And also, what gets our arms moving, what gets me talking right now is actually carbohydrates. It's called glycogen. So if you guys look right here, glycogen, which is stored muscle sugar, okay, that's what moves our muscles. That's what moves our body, is stored sugar within our muscles. Okay, so we use that as fuel when we're doing our workout, so we want to replenish that when we're done. Now, depending on how hard you go, so like if we're doing more of a strength training, maybe you don't really need to do as much carbohydrates. But if we do like a Saturday high intensity where you're like huffing and puffing, sweating, breathing really crazy, then maybe you want to do a little bit more carbohydrates. Does anybody have questions on that?
No.
No. No.
Mm-hmm. So it depends on the intensity of your workout. The higher the intensity, probably the more the carbohydrates you're going to want. Now, what's in contrast with post-workout is, we'll go back to pre-workout. So fats here in the pre-workout, they slow our digestion, so it helps provide consistent energy and helps us to control our hunger, because no one wants to be starving during their workout. So the fats, like I told you guys a couple minutes ago, fats are the highest energy source that we have, okay, but they're also going to help us to stay consistent with energy. Versus here, when we go to, what happened? Post-workout, we actually want to try to keep either no fats in our post workout or keep fats very, very low because, like I just said, fats are slow digesting. So it's going to slow down the process in which this protein that we drink and the carbohydrates that we're having is going to get into our system. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
And we want that protein and carbohydrates to get into our system as fast as possible. Okay, especially for ladies. Ladies, they say there's no window, but especially as as ladies get older into the perimenopause and the menopause and the postmenopause, your nutrition becomes extremely important. Okay, and we really want to focus on getting enough protein and really building up the muscle tissues because I keep saying we don't have the hormones no more to build up like you guys were like in your 20s and in your 30s and stuff like that, right? So we want to make sure that we're really dialing in our nutrition, and like I said, we want to get this protein and carbohydrates to our body as fast as possible. So we want to try to keep fats at a minimum. Like I said, either preferably not at all, or like I'd say probably less than like 7 grams. So really, 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 really low.
In your post workout.
In the post workout, in the
Okay.
pre workout, it's fine. I'm
Okay.
not gonna give you a set amount,
Okay.
but in your
Okay.
post workout, you want to keep that low, for
Okay.
sure. Okay, and then obviously for both is we have hydration. Okay, so you never, ever, ever want to come to your workout dehydrated because you're not going to be able to perform your best. You're going to get lightheaded. Okay, there's a high chance that you can muscle cramp or you can get an injury. Right, when we're dehydrated, it depletes our cells and we can't perform our best. Okay, so hydration is important in pre-workout. Like I said, I don't just drink water. I add some salt to it. And then, of course, in post-workout, we want to push these nutrients through as fast as possible, right? Like I said, we're trying to get this protein and carbohydrates through our system and as quick as we can. So water is going to help do that, okay? And, of course, we sweated during our workout, so we want the electrolytes. Is there any questions on that?
No.
Sure. Rose, you
No,
have any questions?
no, I'm taking a bunch of notes though.
Listen, if I'm going too fast, tell me to pause for a second or repeat something. I don't mind.
No, I'm all
Okay.
good.
All right. There's no question on our pre and post workout. Like I said, I gave you guys sheets on like what I personally do. I think I even gave you guys like, I don't want to say recipes, but where is it at? Let's see. I know I did. Pre and post. Yeah, like this. So post workout. So like this, the classic muscle repair. So you got your protein shake, you got a rice cake with jelly. So here I gave specifics. Okay, we
Okay.
got 40 grams of protein, we got 2 rice cakes, we got 2 servings of jelly. Down here is the macros. You got 42 grams of protein, 52 grams of carbs. Like I said, very low fat, 7 grams. Okay, so like this is all emailed to you for examples. You don't have to do this, obviously, but here's just like a good outline, if you
Okay.
will. And I have the same for pre-workout too. Okay. All right. So back to our menu. So we already talked about having fruits and vegetables, except for our post-workout. We don't want to have fruits and vegetables for post-workout. Do you guys have any idea why?
No.
No, because fruits and vegetables tend to be a little bit more fibrous. And how fast do we want to have the protein and carbohydrates get to our or get through our bloodstream?
You want it fast. Okay.
Fast as possible. Okay. Also, fruits and vegetables, they have. Hold on, let me think about it. Oh my goodness, I'm having a brain fart. Antioxidants. They have antioxidants. So what that means is the oxygen that we breathe is not 100% pure, right? So antioxidants help to, I don't want to say clear, but like fight pollution, I guess, if you will, within our body that we get from breathing oxygen. Okay, so antioxidants are good. However, they're not good for post-workout because we want our body to learn how to rely on itself to recover, not on outside sources. Okay, does that make sense too?
Yes.
So we want our body to learn how to be self-sufficient and not have to rely on outside sources, I guess is the easiest way I can put it.
Okay.
And then, like I said, fruits and vegetables tend to have more fiber, which again, fiber slows down the digestion process, which is not what we want in our post workout. We want our digestion process to go fast. So that's why, like, your protein drink and some candy. I know it sounds weird because you're like, man, he's telling me to eat some candy. I'm not telling you to have a bunch, but like, you want it to go through your system really fast. Okay. So that's why we want more carbs, more protein, less fats, less fiber as well. Okay. Nuts and seeds. Again, going back to our micros, nuts and seeds and beans tend to have more fiber, which most of us lack in our diet is fiber. Fiber is actually really good. Fiber helps to remove dead hormones from our body to be discreet. That's what fiber does. It helps to pull out dead hormones from our body. We release it through our stool, obviously. Okay, and it has micronutrients, so your potassium, stuff like that. You can find it in your beans. So definitely, that's why I recommend having at least one serving, as long as you're not allergic to any of them. Okay, having one serving. I tend to do it, like I said, in my pre-workout snack because it's just easy for me to grab some almonds and just go about my day. Okay. Also, with having Mexican cuisine, we tend to eat a lot of beans as well, right? Rice and beans, so that's easy for me to get in as well. So some beans, but highly recommend that. And then here, the meal options. So the saying is, if you fail to plan, then plan to fail, right? So the whole purpose of this is to give us different options. So your challenge is to find out what you like. So you want to find foods that you personally like, and you want to keep different options on hand. So what my wife and I tend to do is, like, we'll try a recipe, like, okay, yeah, we like this one, we're going to keep it, or no, we're not going to keep it, right? Or we have our go-to breakfasts. So we know, like, and when we're in a bind, this is our go-to breakfast. When we actually feel like cooking or we have time to cook, this is going to be our go-to breakfast. So the options here, that's what that means, is figure out what you like. So for breakfast, my best recommendation is try to have 2 to 3 different options. So that one, you're already planning and you're preparing, like, this is usually what I go to for breakfast, right? So you can go grocery shopping, you can have it in your house already, so that way you're not like, when you're hungry, like, what am I going to eat? Okay, it eliminates that. We're trying to, again, plan for success, because if we don't plan, we fail, right? So that's what that means. It means to have 2 to 3 different options that you personally enjoy, again, following these guidelines. So following, what are some options I can have to get 30 grams of protein in? What are some options I can have with having fruit or a vegetable in it? You know what I'm saying? So we're using this as an outline to form these 2 to 3 options. Okay, same with lunch. I think most people don't need a very discrete lunch. I think most of us can get away with having 1 to 2 different options. Dinner tend to be a little bit more, 2 to 4, maybe 5. Okay, having your snacks, have 2 to 4 different options if you're a snacker. And then I'm personally not a sweet tooth person, but having 1 or 2 options that for dessert that you enjoy, that you don't feel like you're going to be losing your gains, or you're not going to be feeling guilty about eating, right? You're having to fit into your day, right? So if that drives consistency for you, by, you know what, I'll look forward to having my dessert later, 2-3 times a week, great. That's what we want. The best diet is the one that keeps you consistent. So if this can keeps you consistent, keep doing what you're doing then, right? Any questions on that?
I have a
Oh.
question. If you miss a meal
Uh-huh.
or you're not a snacker, on your next meal, should you try to, get those proteins and fruits and vegetables in a little bit more, or just skip it? I don't know.
Yes. So Rose, like I said, I have that more explained for you on your nutrition stuff that I'll send to you. Okay. So you do want to try to make it up, but you're also not trying to force feed yourself either. If you're generally not that super hungry, then you're not going to try to force 60 grams of protein into your next meal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to beat yourself up for it. If you miss a meal, it's unfortunate, but again, that's why we do the bio tracker rows, like how you come in and do your sheet when you come to work out, so that way we can see, because all that plays a big factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is if we're not recovering from what we're doing, and it's not even just the gym, it's just life in general. If we're not recovering, then we're going to just go to the gym in vain, to be honest with you. Okay, because I think the biggest thing that we miss is it takes energy to work out, but it also takes energy to recover. It takes energy to digest your food. It takes energy to go to sleep. It takes all this energy, and we put all of our energy into trying to kill ourselves during a hard workout. We're actually depleting ourselves in other areas. So, and that's going to eventually catch up to us because it's going to affect our hormones, and we're just going to be a mess, right? So, does that answer your question, Rose?
Yep, yep.
So yes and no, I guess. Like I said, depending on how hungry you are, and that's a thing to monitor, because I don't know about you guys, but one of the things I notice is that when I'm starting to get sick, I start to lose my appetite, or if I'm starting to get too stressed, I start to lose my appetite, which is another thing that I want to talk about really quick. I don't have a sheet up there, but I want to build it. And Rose, I'm glad you're on, because you're the person who asked me this, and it was, how do you know when you're going too hard or you're starting to overtrain? And that's a really good question. It's a really important question. So if you guys are taking notes, I'm going to give you guys a list right here. Like I said, I'll create a sheet probably for the next month. But if you're taking notes, here's my list personally. Number one is you start to lose motivation to work out, or just life in general, to be honest with you. I think that's the first thing, that we don't feel like doing anything. No matter how much rest we get, we're still exhausted. That's a good sign that you're overtraining, or your stress is really, really high and you're not recovering from what you're doing. Okay, so the lack of motivation, your lack of desire to want to go to the gym, or lack of desire of wanting to be the best version of yourself, or just life in general, that's usually a good sign. I already said the second one. The second one is lethargic. No matter how much sleep you get, you still feel exhausted, you still feel tired. That's a huge one. Okay, because sleep is the only time where we do nothing. So if your sleep is being bothered, I'm telling you right now, it's going to affect everything that you do. It's going to be a really bad cycle. So if I can tell anybody who's trying to get back healthy and their sleep is off, that'd be the first thing I'd focus on. I don't want you going to the gym yet. I don't want you to focus on anything else besides getting your good quality of sleep. Okay, as best as you can, improving that. Third one, I know we're all adults here, but it's sincere, and it's libido, sex drive. Sex drive is huge, because when you're in a stress state, you're not thinking about doing that, right? So that's a really big one, is your sex drive. That's a huge. Okay. Fourth one is you keep getting sick. So you're either getting sick or you're getting injured. So yes, injuries do happen, but I'm saying like repeated, like you're feeling joint pain, like you just feel like your body's hurting all over the place, or you just keep getting sick, like you just got sick, now you're getting sick again. Like that's a good indication that you're probably overly stressed, or your body's not recovering, because it takes energy for our immune system, and you're investing all your energy elsewhere, so it's causing, us to lack recovery. Okay, so again, that's why eating is very important, and I feel like our society is afraid to eat, especially carbohydrates. Okay, so we got those four. Let's see, what else do we got? We already talked about injuries. Mood swings, that's a huge one. Just you feel great one moment, and then the next moment you're just like having this major huge mood swing, right? So that's huge. Checking your mood, checking your energy. If you're relying, that's the second or next one, relying on substances. So if you gotta drink a whole bunch of coffee, you gotta drink a whole bunch of energy drinks just to kind of sustain you throughout the day, chances are you're probably not recovering very well, or you're not eating enough. That's another big one. Okay, so I think those would be my top ones. I'm going to try to remember off the top of my head. So it's the lack of motivation just for life in general, lack of motivation to work out. Your sleep is terrible, you're lethargic. Okay, third one, who can remind me of the third one?
Libido.
What'd you say, Rose?
Sex drive.
I'm sorry, I said that one.
Libido.
Libido, that's right. Fourth one is sick and injured. Fifth one was what?
Mood swings, energy.
Mood swings, and then the last one was energy. Just you gotta rely on substances. Like that's not what we want, right? So right now I'm drinking tea. I drink green tea. I just drink it because I like it, not because I need the energy from it. So does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
And it all boils down to inflammation. So inflammation is not a bad thing, but being chronically inflamed is going to bring us down, which is why at the end of team sessions or at the end of workouts, I always say, hey, focus on bringing your breathing down because you're actually combating inflammation. I don't want you leaving the gym inflamed. Our workout inflames us. Okay, that fight or flight mode that people talk about, that's causing inflammation, which is not a bad thing. We want that. But when we're done, we want to turn it off. We want to turn those hormones off and go into rest and digest. Okay. Any questions? That's the main things I want to talk about. Zoom already said I only got a couple more minutes left. I got 7 minutes left. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
I have a few questions. So my first one is how many or how much workout is sustainable and necessary to stay physically healthy and active?
That's a really good question, Rose, and that's really in depth. I would
Okay.
say I would say at least 3 times to 4 times a week strength training. You can do mobility every single day, and conditioning, like cardio and conditioning. It all depends because those are two different things. So conditioning to me is being able to exhaust yourself and still perform at the best level you can. That's conditioning. So like an athlete, you're on the field, you're exhausted, you're tired, but you're still able to do your job sufficiently. That's conditioning. Versus cardio, you're just going for a walk or you're riding your bike or you're building up the respiratory to be able to do the activity that you're doing. Okay, but you're not necessarily conditioning. You're not going intervals. Like I want you to give me 20 hard as you can med ball slams and then go right into some push-ups. That's different than going for a bike ride. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would say like conditioning, you probably want to do right along with your strength training. Probably less, probably like 1 to 2 times a week. You really want to push yourself to that max, and then the rest of it you can just do mild activity. Just hey, you can do bike riding every single day. You know what I'm saying? Does that
Yeah.
answer your question, Rose?
Yeah. Really
Good.
good.
All right. Like I said, it's going to vary for everybody. So versus an athlete, it's going to be a completely different answer. So it depends on
Right.
your goals, depends on like your training level, it depends on all that stuff. But I say that's a modest foundation, I would say.
Do you have anything, Kim? Because if not, I do got a couple more.
No, go ahead. This I like the question, so I'm just taking notes on that. So
Yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, with the workout, so how important is the recovery time and how much recovery time is needed?
So it all depends on what you did. So for instance, so like on Monday, like how we do the small group personal training, which is geared more towards strength training, which is geared more towards lifting heavy weights, lower reps. Okay, and we have our conditioning, so our cardio part. So like when we do like the sled and we're pulling on the rope, like that's getting your heart rate up. You're breathing heavy. You're still trying to perform this exercise. That type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want like a day to 48 hours, I would say, to recover. Which is why I would say your next day when you come to the beginners class, that's probably pretty good. But even then, it depends because I'm trying to boost the beginners class up a little bit. So it all depends. So you want one hard day, like really hard day, and I say maybe like a moderate level day, and then you want like a active recovery day. You're going for a walk, you're doing your mobility, and then you can jump right back into it, or you can take a whole day off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like 1 to 2 really hard days is all we need. And by really hard days, I mean like you're either lifting really hard weights or you're pushing yourself and getting your heart rate up to your max or even to the max. And then you're resting, recovering, and you're doing again like intervals. And then probably like 2 days, depending on how often you go to the gym, about 2 days where you're just focusing on building muscle, if you will. You can do your light cardio so you can hit your weights, but you can also go just walk on the treadmill or go for a bike ride. And then you want another day or two to where you're just doing more mobility, just going for a walk, you're keeping your heart rate low, just kind of give you a peace of mind. You don't want to just sit on the couch and do nothing, but you still want to be active. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. Um, Some of them you kind of answered because some of that, like the mobility, you can do at home, right?
Yeah, mobility you can do at home, you can do anywhere. It could be nice out. You can go to the beach and throw out a mat and do it there. It doesn't matter. You can do mobility anywhere.
So how long or what's the duration of these workouts? Should it be like half hour, an hour? I mean, what should you strive for?
Obviously, I'd say a whole hour is better than a half hour, but if you only got 30 minutes, you can still get a good workout in 30 minutes. Trust me. I'm learning when having the baby. So, but yeah, I say at least an hour is probably the best. Hour to maybe 90 minutes, but like I said, if, depending on your time frame, something's better than nothing. So, but yeah, it all depends on your session. So, like if it's a cardio conditioning day, give yourself 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're good. But if it's more of a strength training day and you're really trying to lift heavy weights, then you're probably going to want that hour to hour and a half because you're going to want to take a longer break. Usually when you lift heavy weights.
I mean, like a break in between sets or?
Yeah. So like
Okay.
for instance, so like when I'm doing like deadlifts. So when I'm doing heavy deadlifts, I'll do 4 sets, but I'll do like 3 to 5 reps with heavy weight, but I'm also taking a 2 to 5 minute break in between each set.
Okay.
So it's not the workout per se that's going to be long for me. It's more of my breaks that are going to be long for me because it takes that long when you're really pushing yourself that hard to recover to be able to hit your maximal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, versus like if I was doing the same deadlifts, but I wasn't going as heavy, and opposed to doing 3 to 5 reps, I was doing 8 to 12 reps, which is more
Hmm.
muscle building. I'd only need like probably like 60 seconds to 90 seconds between each set
Okay.
because I'm not pushing myself to the max. I'm just trying to build muscle.
So explain to me pushing yourself to the max versus building muscle. Why are you doing 5 reps versus 8?
So strength training requires different muscle fibers. So strength training is usually 1 to we'll say 6 reps is usually our
Okay.
strength training max. Okay,
Okay.
so like I said, that's deadlifting. So for me, my heaviest deadlift is around 425. So that's me deadlifting about 400 pounds versus when I'm trying to build muscle, I'm going 8 to 12 reps. So I'm not going to lift 400 pounds because I can only do it 5 times. You get what I'm saying? So
Right.
I'm
Sure.
going lower than I would do for the strength training. Okay, so strength training requires different muscle fibers. They're called type 2 versus hypertrophy, which is muscle building, is a little bit of type 2, but more type 1, which is more endurance.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, we got less than 1 minute. So if you guys have any other questions, write them down so that way when we do this again, we can come back to it and I can answer those for you guys.
No, that was good. Even my other questions were answered just about nutrition and stuff. It is important. I didn't know how important it
Yes,
was.
nutrition is the most important, which is why I started out with that. Because it's
I
always what I get asked the most.